My father demanded I attend my Golden Twins gallery launch, threatening to cut my inheritance. They were shocked when I revealed I was an award-winning architect earning more than him. Being born second made me invisible. That's not an exaggeration. It's a fact I've lived with since the day my brother Caleb and I came into the world, 2 minutes apart, but light years in how we were treated. My name's Elliot. I'm 33 years old, and I live in Chicago now. I haven't seen my family in over a year. And honestly, I was hoping to keep it that way. But last week, I got a call. Not just any call, a thundering, performative voicemail from my father, demanding that I come to Caleb's art exhibition in New York. He called it a family milestone, said I'd regret it if I missed it. Then, of course, came the threat, tucked inside his usual velvet arrogance. If I didn't show, he'd reconsider the conditions of my future inheritance. Classic him. He's a retired theater director who thinks life is just one long monologue, and he's always center stage. Even now, even with all his grandeur fading, he still knows how to weaponize legacy. And he always knew how to make me feel small. Growing up, Caleb was the golden one, the genius, the prodigy. He could doodle a cat on a napkin, and the whole family would act like he'd painted the Sistine Chapel. I remember once, I was maybe 11, I won a regional essay contest. A real achievement, with a ceremony and everything. My mom gave me a polite, "Good job, honey," before shifting the conversation to Caleb's new oil painting that had just been selected for display at some local cafe. He was 14. By 16, Caleb had his first solo gallery showing in Brooklyn. My parents rented a limo. There were toasts, speeches, family photos. I was just there, holding someone's coat and pretending it didn't hurt when no one asked what I'd been up to. At home, our hallway was a shrine to him: paintings, awards, newspaper clippings, even the kindergarten finger painting that started it all. There was nothing of mine. Not my academic certificates, not my designs from architecture camp, not even a candid photo. I was the ghost in the frame. When I was 15, I remember catching my dad at a party, arms around Caleb, declaring, This one's the legacy." The room erupted with applause. I was standing 10 feet away, holding a tray of appetizers. No one even looked at me. The message was clear. I was the spare, the backup, the brother who filled out the holiday cards but not the memory books. Still, I played along. I showed up. I clapped when I was supposed to. I laughed at Caleb's jokes, even when they weren't funny. I went to his shows, his gallery launches, his fundraisers. Every time, I stood in the corner and watched my parents beam like they'd given birth to a messiah. And I wondered what it would take, what I would have to do, to make them look at me like that. Now, he's having a major solo exhibition in Manhattan, and I'm invited. Not out of love. Not because they miss me. But because Caleb's show is expected to draw in critics, investors, big names, and the perfect family image is part of the presentation. And me? I'm the reluctant prop they need to complete the picture. But maybe not this time. I didn't choose dramaturgy. It was chosen for me. Back then, when we were applying to college, my parents made it clear I was to stay close to home. Caleb was already being courted by art schools in New York and abroad, and they didn't want competing energies in the same spotlight. I still remember my mom, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, saying it like she was handing down a family decree. "You've always been more supportive." Behind the scenes, dramaturgy would suit you. Supportive. That was the word they used when they wanted to keep me small. Behind the scenes, like I was a stagehand in my own life. I nodded then, said yes like I always did. But I had already decided I wasn't going to play the part they wrote for me. I agreed to enroll at the local arts conservatory on one condition, that I live off campus. I told them I needed space, creative freedom, that I worked better alone. My father, who adored that kind of tortured artist logic, ate it up. He even helped me rent a little studio apartment on the north side of town. Except that studio wasn't in our town. It was in Chicago. The day I moved in, I remember closing the door, sitting on the hardwood floor, and just breathing. For the first time in my life, no one was watching. No one was asking me to step aside so Caleb could shine. I wasn't the shadow anymore. I was just Elliot. I had been accepted into one of the top undergraduate architecture programs in the Midwest on a full academic scholarship. Every class, every design challenge, every late-night critique session lit something in me that had been dim for years. I was exhausted, sure, but I felt alive in a way I never had back home. I used the rent money from my parents to cover my living expenses. Everything else, I earned on my own, tutoring, freelance drafting gigs, even bartending at one point. And every couple of months, I'd send my parents forged updates from my theater classes. It wasn't hard. I knew how to mimic the academic tone. I'd write things like, exploring narrative architecture in modern dramaturgy, and they'd eat it up. My mom once told a dinner party, Elliot's work is very experimental. So niche. On holidays, I'd take the bus back and play the role they expected, the quiet, artsy twin with nothing much to show. Caleb would hold court, talking about brush techniques and gallery drama, while I sat on the edge of the couch, nodding like a well-trained extra. The irony? I was thriving. By senior year, I had 3 design awards under my belt and offers from top firms in New York, Seattle, and LA. But I kept the secret, because the minute they knew I had carved out something of my own, something better, they'd try to take credit for it. Or worse, tear it down. So I lived a double life. Their quiet, obedient Elliot by holiday, and my own person, finally, the rest of the year. It was my quiet rebellion. And every time I passed one of my buildings under construction, I smiled to myself. Because I knew something they didn't. I was never behind the scenes. I was just building my own stage. It was a Tuesday night when the call came. I was sketching out a proposal revision for a project in Logan Square, half listening to jazz on the radio, when my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Dad, work line. I let it ring twice before I picked up. Elliot, he said, like my name tasted foreign on his tongue. You'll be flying out for Caleb's show, of course. No greeting. No how are you. Just a command wrapped in silk. I sat back in my chair. Flying out where? He sighed. New York. The gallery launch is next Saturday. It's a family milestone, Elliot. A career-defining moment for your brother. There it was again, that word. Milestone. As if my own graduation, my first architectural commission, my promotions, none of those counted. No, the real milestones belonged to Caleb. Always Caleb. I didn't answer right away. I just let the silence stretch long enough for him to get uncomfortable. He cleared his throat. The press will be there. Investors. Donors. It's important the family shows up united. For optics. Ah, there it was. Not inclusion. Optics. I wasn't aware we were still calling ourselves a family, I said flatly. That got him quiet. For about 2 seconds. Elliot, he said, voice lowering, don't turn this into something it's not. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The weight of all the years between us did the talking. When I hung up, I just sat there, phone still in my hand, the same way I used to sit on the edge of the couch as a kid, hoping they'd remember I existed. The same way I sat alone in the bleachers at my own college graduation because my parents were too busy attending an award ceremony. Caleb was speaking at that same weekend. That was 4 years ago. I sent them photos of me in my cap and gown. Never got a reply. But when Caleb painted a mural on the side of a community rec center the next month, it made the evening news. My mom posted about it with the caption, "So proud of our brilliant son." Singular. And now they wanted me back. For a show. For a crowd. For a photo op. Not because I mattered, but because I completed the picture. I turned my phone over and over in my hand. Part of me, a small, traitorous part, still wanted to say yes. Still wanted to walk into that gallery and be introduced as Caleb's brother and maybe, just maybe, hear someone say, "And what do you do?" Maybe they'd notice me this time. But another part, the part that built a whole life out of their blind spots, was louder. They didn't invite me to be part of the celebration. They summoned me to keep up appearances. And appearances don't deserve loyalty. Still, I sat there for a long time, looking at the screen, reading the text Dad sent after the call ended. Your RSVP is assumed. Caleb expects you there. Don't disappoint him. Funny, he didn't ask what I wanted. He never has. I replied to my father's text with 2 words. I'm not coming. No explanation. No argument. Just the truth. 5 minutes later, my phone lit up again. This time, it was my mother. I let it ring. Then she texted, "Elliot, please, don't be the bitter brother. Caleb needs you there." Bitter. That was her go-to word. She said it like a diagnosis, not a description. Not disappointed, not hurt. Bitter. Like I was the one who curdled the milk of this perfect family image. I didn't reply. A few hours passed. Then my father called. I should have let it go to voicemail. But I picked up. "You're embarrassing yourself," he snapped before I could say a word. "And you're putting this entire family in a difficult position." I didn't say anything. Just stared at the wall. "Do you have any idea how many important people will be at that gallery? Do you think we want to answer questions about why you didn't show? You'd make us all look fractured. And don't think we won't tell people why you weren't there." I stayed quiet. "You've always been dramatic, Elliot," he went on, voice clipped. "Always overreacting. Well, this is the consequence. If you're so intent on separating yourself, maybe it's time we reevaluate the trust. Your inheritance isn't a given." There it was. The real threat. The financial leash, pulled tight like always. "I don't need it," I said quietly. He paused. "Excuse me." I said I don't need it. I repeated, louder this time. "I have a career. I have savings. I don't need your money. Keep it." "Don't be foolish," he hissed. "You don't know what you're throwing away." But I did. I was throwing away the weight they'd used to hold me down. I hung up without another word. I sat there afterward, still gripping the phone, half expecting it to ring again. Maybe Caleb would call, try to smooth things over. Or maybe they'd send one of their performative apology emails, the kind that start with "We're disappointed in your behavior, but we love you." But nothing came. And that was the moment I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. For so long, I thought their approval, what little I could get, was my currency. That without it, I'd have nothing. But now, I had everything I needed. My work, my peace, my freedom. They could keep the spotlight. I'd take the quiet. 2 days after the call, the bomb dropped. Apparently, my father marched into the local arts conservatory the moment he realized I wasn't bluffing. He didn't even try to hide it. Told the front desk he was there to settle some tuition issues for his son, Elliot Monroe. The poor woman at the desk must have blinked in confusion. "Elliot?" she asked, typing into the system. "We don't have a student here by that name." He gave my birth date, spelled out my full name, even recited my supposed major, dramaturgy. She double-checked. Still nothing. Then she asked the question that must have set him off. When did he last enroll? My father, proud as ever, told her, "He's in his final year. Should be preparing a thesis or something." She gave him a slow, polite smile, the kind reserved for clueless men in expensive coats, and said, "Sir, our records show he hasn't been a student here in over 4 years." That's when it all fell apart. He tried to save face, of course, said there must be a clerical error, that he'd speak with administration. But word spread fast, through staff, through faculty, through a few old family connections who were still tied to the conservatory. And just like that, the Golden Father, the respected patron of the arts, became the subject of a very quiet, very elite scandal. I found out when he called me that night, seething. "You lied to us," he said, his voice like static. "You betrayed your blood." I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just said, "I did what I had to do." "You stole from us," he barked. "No," I said calmly. "You gave me that money. For housing. You just assumed I'd stay in the box you built. You think you're clever? You think this is some grand rebellion?" "No," I said. "It's a career." I could hear him breathing hard through the line, trying to find something to hit me with. So I finished it for him. "I graduated from Northwestern with honors," I said. "Architecture, not theater. I've been working full-time for a top firm downtown. In fact, I'm now lead designer on a multi-million-dollar urban project near Navy Pier." He didn't respond. "And I make more money than you ever did during your directing days," I added, deadpan. Silence. I heard a quiet exhale. Maybe it was a laugh. Maybe just disbelief. "You're proud of that?" he asked finally, his voice brittle. "No," I said. "I'm just no longer ashamed." He hung up first. About 10 minutes later, my mother tried calling. Then texting. "Your father is deeply upset. This isn't how family should operate. We could have worked this out privately." But I was done with private. I'd played along for years, feeding them carefully constructed lies so they could pretend I was the docile twin who never asked for more. Now they knew. And more importantly, now everyone else did too. The next morning, I got a text from an old friend of the family, a retired set designer who once gushed about how the Monroe twins were destined for greatness. Her message was short. "Heard what happened? Good for you, Elliot. It's about time someone told the truth." I smiled. The world didn't end. No fire rained from the sky. Just a little silence. A little clarity. And a power shift they never saw coming. It was my cousin Julia who told me what happened. She called me late one night, her voice low and shaky, like she was hiding in a closet. "Elliot, did you hear?" "Hear what?" "About Caleb's gallery launch. It fell apart." I blinked. "What do you mean, fell apart?" "I mean, it never happened." I sat up. "Julia, what are you talking about?" She took a breath, then let it all out in a rush. "His fiancée vanished the night before. Took off with a bunch of investor money. The gallery was locked by noon the next day. Apparently, half the pieces weren't even his. And the sponsors? They're threatening legal action." I didn't say anything for a second. Just let the words hang there. "I shouldn't even be telling you this," she added quickly, "but your dad, he's losing it. Your mom's crying in the car like she's in a soap opera. Everyone's scrambling to do damage control." A small part of me, maybe the last part that still wanted to believe in family, felt sorry for Caleb. But the rest of me? The part that had been shoved into the shadows since birth? That part was quiet. Still. Processing. "I thought she was loaded," I said finally. "The fiancée. Apparently not. Turns out she's done this before. Changed her name a few times. No one did a background check. Of course they didn't. She was beautiful, charming, and most importantly, she fit the Monroe image. And that was always enough." Julia continued, her voice growing quieter. "There's rumors Caleb knew some of the pieces were plagiarized. He's saying he didn't, but people are starting to talk." I nodded slowly, though she couldn't see me. "Thanks for telling me." After we hung up, I sat there in the dark, letting it all sink in. The golden twin, the shining hope of the Monroe family name, brought down not by malice or betrayal from outside, but by the very same shallow image obsession our parents had fed us since we were kids. They built Caleb's world on image and praise and performance. But they forgot to give him something to stand on when the set collapsed. The next day, I got a message from my mother. It was polite, cautious. Just checking in. We're going through a difficult time. Hope you're doing well. Maybe we can talk? No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a sudden, subtle pull, like a fisherman reeling in a line they hadn't touched in years. Then came another text from my father. Would love to catch up soon. We could use your perspective on some things. My perspective. They didn't want a son. They wanted a savior. Not out of love, but because their golden child fell and the spare suddenly looked more stable. And for the first time, I understood the truth. Their affection had always been conditional. Now that they were falling apart, they were finally willing to see me, but only because they had nowhere else to look. It happened on a Sunday, late afternoon. I had just finished assembling a set of custom shelving for my home office, something I'd been putting off for weeks, when the buzzer rang. I checked the intercom screen. There they were. My mother, holding a shopping bag like it was some sort of peace offering. My father standing stiff beside her, blazer too formal for the weather. I was already scanning the building like he was looking for an audience. I didn't even have to ask what they wanted. I knew. I opened the front door but didn't step aside. Elliot, my mother said with a forced smile. You look well. My father nodded. Nice place. Why are you here? I asked, my voice calm even. She tried to hand me the bag. We brought you some things. Just to talk. As a family. That word again. Family. I looked at the bag but didn't take it. Now you want to talk? My father gave a practiced sigh. What happened with Caleb was unfortunate. But we're still a family, Elliot. That doesn't change. I studied his face. He meant it the way politicians mean integrity. Something he said when it suited him. I spent years waiting for you to say that, I said. Now that everything's falling apart, suddenly I'm a part of the family again? My mother frowned. Don't twist this. I leaned against the doorframe. No twisting. Just clarity. There was a pause. A long, heavy silence. Then I said, I'm not the one you need. You didn't want me when I was doing fine. You want me now because you think I can help clean up your mess. That's not fair, my mother began. It's exactly fair, I said, cutting her off. I stepped back into the apartment and started to close the door. Elliot, please, she said, her voice cracking. Goodbye, I said, and shut the door gently. 2 days later, Caleb showed up. Alone. No warning, no call. Just a knock I somehow knew was him. I opened the door to find him standing there, hoodie pulled low, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I messed up, he said before I could say anything. I lost everything. She wasn't who I thought. The money's gone. The gallery pulled my name from the roster. I'm screwed. I stood still. I waited. He sniffed, then added, I need my big brother. Those words hit me harder than I expected. But I didn't move. You don't get to need me now, I said softly. You had years. Years when I needed you, and you didn't even look up. He swallowed. I know. I nodded. Then you know why I'm closing the door. He didn't stop me. Just stared as it shut between us. And this time, it stayed closed. Later that night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, looking out at the skyline. No noise. No guilt. I felt the void, where family should have been. But for once, I wasn't trying to fill it. I was letting it be. Because some things don't need fixing. Some things just need peace.